Be creative, innovative, passionate. Be excellent, inspiring, driven. Be faithful, disciplined, prepared. At Union University, you will thrive in a Christ-centered community and be equipped for success in your life and career. Begin your journey today. At Union University, be transformed.
Students of the world, gather round. It's time for the World Student Podcast with our host, Mark and Darren.
And welcome once again to the World Student Podcast. I'm Darren Sutherland, located in the Olympic city of Atlanta, Georgia. Let's go down to New Orleans. He's on the road today. Mark Kopinski. Mark, how are you doing, my friend?
Hey, good morning, Darren. Well, I got to tell you, it's a little sleepy in the Big Easy right now. I was here in May visiting a few of my client universities down here, and things were opening up pretty well then. And actually, Bourbon Street had some activity, and Magazine Street and some of the shopping areas, but now it's slowed down considerably. And I don't know if we're in the latter part of the first wave or we're in a second wave or what have you, but it's definitely quiet in New Orleans.
Mark, before we get to our guests, let's talk about real quickly what's going on in the U.S. We're hearing at first no international students can come in. Then we're hearing they relax the laws. Then we're hearing there's a lawsuit between the feds and ICE. And then we hear everybody's suing everybody. And there's a different message every day. And I know you also, with your company, lobby a lot to federal officials. What's the latest? As of the date of this program, it's July 30th. So by the time you listen in 2 weeks, things will probably change. But what's going on?
Sure.
Yeah. Where are we at right now?
Well, what happened is the push from the White House has been to get schools reopened and to get students back on campuses or back in classrooms, whether it's K through 12 or universities. And the thinking on the international side was if students are in the United States as international students, they should be going back to campus and not studying online like they did this past spring. Normally, a student on an F1 student visa is not allowed to study online. They need to study on campus. But they relaxed that law this past spring for obvious reasons. Students just simply couldn't get to campus because they weren't open. But they wanted to tighten that back up. So it was really going back to the original policy and making students that were already here go to campus and not study online. And of course, that made everybody crazy and created a lot of scrambling all over the place. Like you said, lawsuits being filed, the whole bit. And the White House recently has scrapped that and now has said, if you are already in the U.S. as an international student, you can study hybrid, you can study on campus, or you can study totally online. It really just depends on what your individual university is going to do. And of course, every university is trying to do something a little bit different to get back and up and running. Now, if you're in Malaysia and you're hoping to come here this fall to do an undergraduate or graduate degree, first of all, getting here, and we'll talk to Sabrina, our guest this morning, about how the consulates are doing, if they're open, if there's any way to get here in terms of visa, if there's any way to get here in terms of flights. But if you can get here, then those students would need to come to campus to study. And, that's going to further complicate things. So that's where we are, at the end of July. Where we're going to be in 2 weeks, Darren, is anyone's guess. But I think it's safe to say if you're an international student pretty much anywhere in the world and you haven't left your country for the U.S., it's going to be very difficult for you to get here in time for classes to start, because many of our universities are starting early this year, early August, so that they can finish by Thanksgiving, so that students do not have to come back after Thanksgiving to finish the semester. So we have an early start this year, and it's going to be extremely difficult for kids from places like Malaysia to get here for September, August, September start term. So that's where we are today.
That's a show for another day, but something tells me this early summer start and this ending before Thanksgiving will more than likely become the norm rather than what used to be the norm. You follow what I'm saying? Because I feel like folks are going to like that December break, especially professors and school administrators. I think they're going to find it a whole lot better. So who knows? Who knows? And let's face it, with the way football is pushing forward into August, I could see them bringing the students on campus and making it, but that's a story and a show for another day. Hey, I want to thank, before we get started, Union University in Jackson, Tennessee. That's right, Union University in Jackson, Tennessee. Grow with Union University. Check them out online. uu.edu. It's that simple, Mark. uu.edu. And we've had some conversations with the Union in the past, and we're going to get one of the representatives on here before long, but good people. Don't you think, Mark?
Most definitely. As a matter of fact, if I can't get back to New Jersey by a flight, I may drive up and stop by and see our good friends at Union. It's sort of on the way back, as they say.
Yep. It is on the way back. Halfway between Nashville and Memphis, Tennessee, Union University. They tell you it's in God's country. Hey, let's take a quick break. We'll come back with our guests from all the way over in Malaysia to talk about how Southeast Asians are fighting the pandemic and looking for education in the States, and find out about a little bit about their education system right here on the World Student Podcast.
Be creative, innovative, passionate. Be excellent, inspiring, driven. Be faithful, disciplined, prepared. At Union University, you will thrive in a Christ-centered community and be equipped for success in your life and career. Begin your journey today. At Union University, be transformed.
And welcome back to the World Student Podcast. Darren Sutherland here, Mark Kopinski, my co-host with Global Student. Mark, I always mess your company's name up.
Global Student Recruitment Advisors.
I want to say
GSRA.
Yeah, I want to always say Global Student International, because you line up all these great international guests, but Global Student Recruitment Advisors. And Mark, you've went all the way to Southeast Asia. We were laughing before the show. And folks, just to let you know, you may be listening at 3 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but it's 8 a.m. where I'm at in Atlanta, Georgia. It's 7 a.m. where Mark's at in New Orleans, Louisiana, Central Time Zone, if you will. And our guest, Sabrina, all the way in Malaysia. Sabrina, what time is it where you're at?
We are at 8:10 in the evening.
8:10 in the evening. Now, is it Thursday? Now, here's what's going on. I mean, we're in an education podcast, and I should know this right off the top of my head. Is it Thursday at 8:10 or is it Friday at 8:10? I forget.
Well, fortunately, it's Friday.
That's what I thought. It's early for me to be thinking about all this. Friday at 8:10. So let me say this. Friday night at 8 o'clock, Sabrina has set aside her fun time to be on our podcast, Mark. Aren't we lucky?
We are indeed. And Sabrina, she'll tell you a little bit more about what she does, but she's moved a lot of Malaysian students to North America over the years, and has been a great help to GSRA and the universities that we work with in helping students understand what's available to them in the U.S. and going through the admissions process with them and getting them to the U.S. So I'm very excited to have Sabrina on the show. I think Malaysia is one of the best countries to visit and recruit in. There's a lot of interest there in students coming to the U.S. And I also think it's a study abroad destination that has incredible potential for the future. There aren't a lot of Americans studying for short-term, programs there right now, 1 semester, 2 semester, these kinds of things. but it's a beautiful country, very safe. And I think that number is going to grow. There's only a few hundred students right now, U.S. students studying there, but I think the potential is really great. So I'm going to be quiet and let Sabrina introduce herself and what she does and what's happening there. And maybe we can talk about the current situation, Darren, and what the future looks like in Malaysia.
Sabrina, welcome. For our listeners, tell us all about yourself and what you're doing over in Malaysia.
Sure, it's my pleasure. Well, I've been involved in the education industry for more than 11 years by chance. In actual fact, because back then I was a shy girl. Sometimes I still do. But having experienced myself for a study abroad trip to Australia, it really opens my mind, and I enjoy it a lot because I get to meet and get to know people who are outside from my circle. I always encourage my students to make friends, who are outside from the circle, get out from the comfort zone area, and get around and get to know about the places and the university also as well. Well, U.S. is, U.S. university, U.S. destination is one of the top choices for Malaysian students to come over to study in the U.S. I would say you have, I think, majority of the U.S. universities are top rank. That's what attracts most Malaysian students going over there to study. It's a great country. You have a really diverse and flexible program where our Malaysian students could study, and we could choose different majors and even build our own structure program also as well.
Sabrina, what is the current situation there for this fall? I know you have many students that are anxious to come to the U.S. to study. Do you anticipate any of them getting here in August or early September, or has that been delayed now until 2021? What's the kind of current status there with the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, I've been speaking to the students and parents and, other people in the same industry where I am. And, parents are worried because of the pandemic situation. Some of them are putting off their plans to study abroad. So quite a majority are looking to defer for the next spring intake. Very few are fine going over for the August, September, but I could see that the numbers will reduce and probably would pick up next year, either by spring or fall, I would say.
I see. Are the U.S. consulates open there at the moment? Like you're in Kuala Lumpur as an example. I mean, there's a big consulate there. Are they processing visas of any kind at the moment?
Well, students can apply. I mean, you can apply, but the consulate is still, it's still not open yet for students to come in for appointment and interviews. You can apply, but it's still closed at the moment. So we're hoping the situation would improve. I think they are expecting to open it in sometime in November, but we're hoping it could be earlier so that Malaysian students could fly there. Should they be able to, they could fly there for the fall intake this year.
Yeah, Darren, this is the challenge, all over the world. We've had other guests on from places like Vietnam, India, China. All of our U.S. consulates are not taking interviews. Students, international students coming to the U.S. have to go to the consulate and do a short interview before they get their visa. And of course, if that consulate office isn't open, it's a non-starter. So it sounds to me like at the end of July here, unless they were to open in the next few weeks and move very quickly, that most of these students are going to have to come in, January, February 2021, or wait until next September, which is going to be pretty dramatic financially to many of our friends in higher education in the U.S. It's certainly going to affect our good friends at Union University who are expecting international students this fall. So that, I mean, that's bad news. Any way you slice it. How do you help these students now, Sabrina, knowing that they're going to be delayed? I mean, what will they do? Is there anything to do right now in Malaysia? Can you go out, and are things open, or what's the current status there?
Well, we are open. I think most of our industries are already start opening, and restaurants, cafes also has been operating. It was more relaxed couple of weeks, but because there was a little bit increase in the number of COVID cases, so the government are encouraging a lot of people here to still observe the social distancing and wearing face masks in public places also as well. A couple of weeks back, government said it's an option, but now it's compulsory to wear face masks, particularly in public transportation and also in public spaces also as well. Schools, primary schools has just started actually last week, Wednesday, but there are parents who are still a little bit nervous. So some of the kids are actually back home doing homeschool or doing online classes in actual fact. I'm lucky because my son went to school, so I had some break in that sense. It was a good break for me. But as being as parents, we are always fearful. But I'm lucky in the sense that the school observes social distancing. They do put in a lot of SOP measures to make sure that children under primary 1 to primary 3 are kept safe while studying.
Yeah. You know, you mentioned online learning. We had a guest a few weeks back, Darren. You'll remember Sama from Kuwait. He's in Kuwait City. I spoke to him yesterday, and he updated me that all education, K through 12 and university, will be online through June of 2021 in Kuwait, which is a pretty radical, move forward in terms of how they're going to handle education there. In Malaysia, are students equipped and teachers and schools to go online for extended periods of time? And would students that, would normally be going to the US for undergrad or grad study, would they study online with their American universities of choice? Or are they just going to delay? I mean, how prevalent is virtual education, online education in Malaysia at the moment?
Students during the lockdown, the private universities are quick enough to implement the online learning. Our public universities, those reputable ones, are also quickly to move the changes. There are some, unfortunately, took a little bit longer in order to implement the online learning, and not all lecturers and professors are equipped in teaching online compared to doing a face-to-face teaching in the classroom setting. Our primary schools, and our higher education schools, we have a little bit of problem in public sectors and also in rural areas because not all parents has internet or very quick internet, so there's a lot of internet interruptions. So some of the kids are unable to go online. Teachers will have to quickly, transform or convert all their teaching materials online, so that takes time also as well. So the government has put in a lot of measures and put in a lot of investment in getting the online classes up should there be another lockdown. So at this point in time, all children are actually in school. They already started studying, but we're hoping that our numbers will still be two-digit down, and hopefully will not repeat the lockdown incidents again.
We're going to take a quick break from this. We'll be right back. But first, here's another message from our sponsor, Union University. Learn, thrive, succeed. Begin your journey today. And then we'll go back to Malaysia and talk to Sabrina about Malaysian students, how they start their academic careers in high school, and how you, as a college admissions person, can find recruitment opportunities within that culture. Right here on the World Student Podcast. Welcome back to the World Student Podcast. Darren Sutherland and my co-host, Mark Kopinski. And Mark, Sabrina is with us today talking from Malaysia. She's talked about the Malaysian students, and y'all have talked about how they're fighting COVID and how they're, this transitional learning stage is. And it's not only affecting college students, but like you said, Mark, it's affecting high school and grade school and grammar school and even kindergartners, as you were saying, over in Kuwait. They're not going back to 2021. But Sabrina, how is the high school, public-private school system set up in Malaysia for potential college students? Draw us a diagram of what that system is like.
Malaysia has I would say it's very international. We have a very international education system. Depending again on where the students, where we want to complete the studies, they are likely to encounter different teaching styles and academic environments influenced by, different cultures. This is a added bonus of actually for Malaysian students and even international students studying in Malaysia. Our students could choose from Australian learning culture style, right to UK American styles. So even we even have a what we call a Canadian education system also here, which is taught here in Malaysia. So giving a variety of our students to choose as well.
Mark,
and the students, how many, sorry, Darren, I was just curious, how many years of high school are the students taking? I'm assuming if you're in an American style high school, it's a traditional 4-year program. But it sounds like you have A-level schools there, which would be the British system. The Malaysian system, is it also 4 years of high school, Sabrina, or is it longer or shorter?
When we talk about if you talk about the high school, so that means it's a 5 years, 5 years of studies that would qualify a student to have what we call a Sijil Pelajaran Malaysia, our SPM, as well. That is our traditional, or what we say is a national curriculum here in Malaysia. And then there is also a year 12 and 13, which is our STPM level, which is Sijil Tinggi Pelajaran Malaysia. So our STPM level is equivalent to like an A levels program. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so how old are those students when they finish then? Are they 18?
Well, they would be 18. Yes, if follow our national curriculum, yes, it will be 18. If they follow the international curriculum, which is like an O-level style, for example, student can graduate at the age of 16. I've counseled, a very young age of 16 and 17 years old student who has completed their O levels, and even have an O level certificate. They are very young. They are still a little bit immature. So a few of them will stay back in Malaysia to study, or they will perhaps parents will allow their children to go overseas to study and to continue either in UK, because UK could accept student with age of 17 and above. I believe US could also accept students who are at least minimum age about 17 years and above, to study in the US, either in the community colleges or private colleges in the US.
Sabrina, what are the academic programs students go for? I mean, Darren and I have been doing this show for a few months, and we hear a lot about engineering, technology degrees, business. Is it about the same in Malaysia, or are the students, more open to other academic areas?
Most of my students here are open to different academics on the majors. Of course, the popular ones are medicine, pharmacy, veterinary, engineering. Of course, all the STEM subjects also as well. Accounting, it's also very popular here among our Malaysian students, favorable with Malaysian parents also as well. Law and communication, psychology as well.
Very good, Darren. They don't have broadcasting. You're gonna have to get some young Malaysians in the radio business.
There we go. We'll get some Malaysians coming this direction for that. Sabrina, describe the culture in Malaysia in terms of what their thought processes are on education among the culture. When people think of Malaysia here in the States, they say Malaysia, that's Southeast Asia, that's Vietnam. They have all these ideas in their head. But tell us from ground level about the Malaysian people, about the culture, and about what their perception is on education from all facets of society.
Sure. We Malaysians, we are very diversified in culture. We're very, very friendly people. We live with, with various people with different cultural, religion background, in harmony and unity. In the time of even like COVID now, we are even more together and even more stronger as well. International students are always welcome to study in Malaysia, because we have, a very good, well-structured international structure program here, which suits and tailored for different kind of needs. So our Malaysian students, are very spoiled. In actual fact, we're very, very lucky because we have various education systems that we can actually choose. Like for example, from the US education system right down to the British education system also as well. We do enjoy each other's company. Family is something which is very, very important here in Malaysia. I would say in terms of education, in Malaysia, parents makes the most decision. There are parents who who does listen to their children in terms of the choice of program they want to study. For example, I've counted students to say, I want to study zoology or marine biology, for example. This is not something which is a very common program that most students tend to study, but there are some parents who actually support their children's decision on their choices as well. Um, we do enjoy our food, so wherever you are, wherever visit here in Malaysia, you can find a lot of variety of food to eat over here. We have a 24 hours, some of the food centers. You will never go tired or boring. Uh, Kuala Lumpur is considered as the second most affordable city over here. So, international students will be able to find that you get a good education at the same time. They'll be able to also experience a city lifestyle environment at the same time.
Sabrina, for our international students and our U.S. students that may want to study abroad, tell us about the major universities in schools there in Malaysia and what they have to offer.
It's actually really, really spread out. We have Malaysia has 20 public universities, and we have 41 private universities and 10 foreign university branch campuses here. So it's pretty much spread out, and depending on the majors or the course they want to study, and it's available across all these institutions. So they're very, very spread out.
What are the fees? What are the fees like at those schools? What does it cost to study there? Is it expensive for an American student to come over to Malaysia and study and live?
No, not really, actually. A typical annual tuition fees in Malaysia ranges from USD 4,000 to 6,000.
Darren, that's where we need to go.
You're exactly right. I'm sitting here thinking I paid $18,000 for private high school in this town. So,
oof. Wow, that sounds pretty good. 4,000 to 6,000 US dollars. Kuala Lumpur is just an incredible global city. I mean, if you've never seen pictures of Kuala Lumpur, it looks like New York City on steroids. What is the cost of living and eating there, Sabrina? I mean, 6,000 for school sounds pretty good. Is it expensive to live there?
Yes. There are some who does charge a little bit more, like particularly like those international branch campus. So you'll be looking at like 40,000 to 100,000 total. But our living expenses are pretty affordable. You'll be looking at roughly about 400 to 700 per month.
Wow.
That's
what would
really
you
good.
say, Sabrina, real quick, we've got about 5 minutes left before we've got to get out of here. But what would you say to U.S. recruiters and admissions counselors that want to recruit students in Malaysia and in your region? What would be their best option to get started, and what would you do if you were them?
Yes, well, you could. The first thing they could do is check out the Malaysian education website. It has all the details they could look at. It will talk about the type of programs they could click in, and they could see the various programs which is offered in Malaysia and the institutions that offer the programs, and they could choose. What they can do is contact the universities that has their program and connect with them. And majority of them will be able to respond them, in a timely manner. So application process is pretty easy in public universities and private universities. The students can apply directly. So it's very easy for them to apply.
And Sabrina, Sorry, Darren. I was just curious. Are there, I realize COVID is going on and all the rest. Are there major recruitment fairs that, our friends at Union and other universities listening to this podcast can do virtually? Are there going to be some big recruiting fairs online this fall?
Yes, yes, they are actually. They already started. Yes. So even like for I Educate Services, that's where I'm at, and we also starting the Facebook Live event also as well with some of our US partners, and we'll promote them on our Facebook and also Instagram. So this year we had quite a number of viewers and also interest. Because education fairs, if we talk about face to face, it's gonna be a little bit challenging. So what we have done, we have thought something which is a little bit more creative by inviting our university partners, and we'll have this live session. It's very casual and yet very informative at the same time, and we hope we could reach out to all the students who are looking to study in the U.S. back again.
Thank you, Miss Sabrina. We're going to have to get out of here because we're up against the clock, and Zoom will kick us off in just a second, whether we want to or not. Mark, again, thanks for calling in from New Orleans today, my friend.
My pleasure. We'll do it again next week.
Sabrina, thank you so much for joining us from Malaysia. And we'll be sure to make sure.
Terima kasih as well from Malaysia as well. Terima kasih.
Thank you, ma'am. Stay safe and 6 foot away. You've been listening to the World Student Podcast with Mark Kopinski and Darren Sutherland. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the World Student Podcast. For more information on how you can be a part of this podcast and information on international student recruitment, email us at worldstudentpodcast@gmail.com. And please leave a remark in the remarks section. This podcast was a production of BG Podcast Network. Jonathan Giles, producer. Jacob Sutherland, director.
Be creative, innovative, passionate. Be excellent, inspiring, driven. Be faithful, disciplined, prepared. At Union University, you will thrive in a Christ-centered community and be equipped for success in your life and career. Begin your journey today. At Union University, be transformed.